Hey everybody, it's the crafting author. Today I'm doing a reading and we are doing reading number 7. So we left off with last time they met uh, Mary and Sarah's mother, Beth. Then the Trent girls came over and swam in the pool, and Grandma Nettie came over and had to rush to the restroom, and she met Stella's two one-eyed cats. They had quite the discussion about that. They discussed T-bones and the fact that Stella puts the names of the cows that they've dropped on the packages, and her sister Annie thinks that's very disturbing. It had a face, Stella. So, anyway, then the kids come running in, and Grandma Nettie reminds them that they're going to be doing renewing their vows, and everybody has to dress up, and it's going to be wonderful. And yes, the Trent girls are invited. So we're going to start at episode 14, and the title is Do Over. The day of the wedding dawned bright and beautiful, a perfect day for the renewal of Natalie and Celie's vows. Stella was nervous. Stella caught Kara frowning at her. It immediately put her on edge. On the bright side, Stella knew that she looked smoking hot. When Alden saw her all decked out, his eyes lit up. Honey, you look amazing. You just get more beautiful every day, Alden said. Stella smiled and turned in a circle to give him the full effect of her outfit. Stella's dress was a blush color, soft and floaty to just above the knee. The frilly top is an off-the-shoulder style. Her long, dark hair was swept up. She had large spiral curls draped over one shoulder. Alden, Tom, and all the boys are dressed alike in silver suits. The wedding song started. Celie was already standing at the front with the minister. Stella walked down the aisle on Alden's arm, followed by Annie and Tom. Henry is the ring bearer. That's Annie's and Tom's little boy. He followed slightly behind the girls, Francine and Maddie. Maddie is also Annie and Tom's little girl. So they have Annie. Annie and Tom have Maddie and Henry. The girls are dressed in identical blush-colored dresses. Both girls carried beautiful decorated baskets. Ribbons streamed down their backs from their upswept hair. Maddie walked next to Francine. Maddie stopped and dumped her entire basket of petals in the middle of the aisle. Francine stopped with a gasp. She bent down and scooped up the petals, heaping them in her basket. Franny grabbed Maddie's hand and towed her down the aisle quickly. After Francine dropped Maddie off, she raced back down the aisle. Wait, I gotta start over, Francine yelled. Francine got back to the starting point. She turned, smiled big, and proceeded to walk down the aisle all by herself. Francine dropped handfuls of petals as she walked, while Henry was still stalled in the aisle. He knew this was all going wrong, but he was unsure what he should do. Francine eyed him up and down, looking at him like he was a bug that she should squash. Franny scowled at him fiercely. She stuck her nose in the air and stepped around him. Once Francine passed him, her big smile returned. As she reached the front, the guests roared with laughter, loving Francine's do-over. Henry still stood in place. Everyone encouraged him to keep walking, but he just stood there. Henry sat down looking angry. He crossed his arms, refusing to move. Annie finally left her spot up front. She walked quickly back down the aisle, looking a bit harassed. Annie took Henry's hand. She tried to pull him to the front. Finally, she scooped him up and carried him. Henry wailing all the way to the front. I don't want to go up there. They didn't do it right. Girls are dumb. Henry kicked his feet. Annie smiled apologetically, her face slightly flushed with embarrassment. Finally, Natalie stepped out. All eyes turned towards the bride. Smiles followed her down the aisle. Natalie stepped up next to Seeley. Seeley leaned in and whispered to his wife, "You are still the most beautiful woman I have ever known," Seeley told Nettie. "Seeley, you are going to make me cry. My makeup is going to get all messed up." Nettie sniffled, trying to hold back her tears of joy. Everyone could be heard saying, "Aw." Stella could not believe how wonderful they both looked. Seeley wearing a white tux, and Natalie dressed in a soft, floaty, knee-length white dress. Her dress was a bit fancier than Stella's and Annie's dresses. Natalie's shoulder-length hair was swept up and around the back, with curls falling softly on one side. Stella thought that Nettie had never looked more radiant. After their vows were renewed, everyone clapped. As the bride and groom were introduced, they walked down the aisle with big smiles. Episode 15, At the Reception. Stella was a mass of nervous energy. She kept waiting to see what her kids would do. She had no doubt that before this night was done, something bad was going to happen. As the night wore on, Stella just got more confused. All 6 of her children sat quietly at their table. The Trent family had been added to their table. No one argued. No one screamed or cried. No one pushed or shoved. Stella watched in awe as her children ate with their mouths closed. They did not talk with their mouths full. Nobody blew bubbles in their drinks or made horrible body sounds. No animal sounds could be heard. Caleb and David remained in their seats. They did not throw themselves on the floor, pretending they were choking to death. Nothing happened. At one point, Stella caught Kara staring at them. She seemed upset that she had nothing to complain about. Stella smirked at her in triumph. The bride and groom cut the cake, and they danced their first dance. Stella, Alden, Annie, and Tom were called to the floor to join in the dance. Henry joined Francine and Maddie on the dance floor, the 3 of them holding hands, swaying to the music. The music picked up. Everyone was on the dance floor. It was so cute seeing all the kids dancing their little hearts out. At one point, Stella saw AJ, Mary, Ben, and Sarah all dancing together to some of the fun, fast dances. The DJ was incredibly good. He played a lot of children's songs so the kids could have fun too. The adults did not seem to mind dancing around like a bunch of chickens, or was it a duck song? Stella wasn't sure. The music was halted. The DJ made an introduction. "There is someone here that wants to say something to the bride and groom. Come on up, son." Stella glanced around in confusion. She gasped when she realized her son AJ was heading to the stage. AJ took the microphone from the DJ and turned around to face everyone. "Hi, I am AJ. I didn't have this planned, but as this day went on by, I kept feeling like I needed to say something. I grew up watching my Grandma Nettie and Pop laugh, cry, fight, and make up. I'm just a kid. I thought about them being married for so many years. Wow, I am amazed when I think about that. They taught my dad good work ethics. They showed him love, and us too." AJ paused for a second. "I feel like the foundations of our family are strong, not just because of my grandparents, but also because of our family history in this area. The history behind the farm and the property that we live on has been passed down from one generation to another. It makes me proud. I sometimes feel that the ties that bind us all together are a vibrant living thing. Grandma Nettie and Pop have taught us more than they can ever know. I am proud to be their grandson. I am not just speaking for myself. I am also speaking for my brothers, my sister, and my 2 cousins, Annie and my 2 cousins. Annie and my mom lost their parents from a car accident 15 years ago. Tom, Annie's husband, has no parents. Henry and Maddie would have grown up without having a grandma or grandpa. Grandma Nettie and Pop decided that they would be grandparents to Henry and Madeline. They show them the same loving care that they show us. We are so proud to have you as our grandparents. We love you. Congratulations, Grandma and Pop. I hope this special day was perfect for you both. Thank you, Grandma Nettie and Pop, for loving us. AJ called all his brothers, his sister Henry, and Maddie up to the stage. They all stuck their little faces in the microphone and screamed, "We love you, Grandma Nettie and Papa Seeley." Natalie and Seeley cried as they went up to the stage to hug and kiss all their babies. Papa shook AJ's hand, but then pulled him in for a tight hug. Stella had tears streaming down her face. She glanced at her husband. He did not even try to hide his tears. Stella looked around and realized that there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Stella caught Kara's eye. Stella was shocked to see how choked up Kara was. Kara looked at Stella, her eyes misted with tears as well. Kara nodded at Stella as if to say, "Yes, well done." Stella was floored. As AJ left the stage and headed towards his parents, he was stopped several times. Everyone shook his hand and told him how much they enjoyed his speech. AJ finally made it to his parents. Stella could hardly form words. "When did that happen, AJ?" Stella questioned. AJ looked confused. "When did what happen, Mom?" Stella sniffled. "When did you go from being the boy that I know to the man that you are becoming?" Stella asked proudly. AJ smiled and hugged his mom tight. "You know, Mom, Dad, when I was talking about firm foundations and love, we get those from you two as well." Alden hugged AJ tight. "I have never been prouder of you, AJ. Good job, son." The DJ announced the next song. Alden turned to Stella. "Wait until you see what we have planned," Alden smirked. Stella looked confused. Suddenly, Alden, Seeley, Ben, AJ, Tom, Caleb, David, and even Elijah lined up on the dance floor. Alden, Seeley, AJ, and Tom were in the back row, Ben, Caleb, David in the second row, and Elijah was at the very front. As the song started up, all 8 guys struck a pose. A fast beat started. They all moved together, identical hand motions, same turns and spins, and strong body movements. Their arms would go up straight and together, elbows back towards the body. Then they would spin. Stella could hear cat calls while the guys danced. Stella could tell that they had to have practiced a lot. Stella was amazed. Annie and Natalie wandered over to stand by Stella. They could not believe the guys had pulled this off. All of their jaws were hanging down. "When did they find time to do this?" Annie asked. Natalie just shook her head. "I have no idea. I'm so happy this reception is being video recorded. They look amazing," Natalie said in awe. "Dang, Natalie, look at Seeley go. Papa's got some moves," Annie exclaimed. Stella watched Alden twirl, hands out, hips gyrating. Stella blushed and laughed out loud when all their hips gyrated at the same time. They finished with arms up in the air and the lights went low. The entire room was filled with laughter. The DJ said, "Now that's how you get it done." Everyone clapped like crazy. The guys left the floor. Stella approached Alden. A slow song started. It was only natural that they would wrap their arms around each other and sway to the music. Stella put her arms around Alden's neck. She tilted her head with curiosity. "I have to say, Alden, I did not know you could move like that. When did you guys get together to do that dance?" Alden pulled Stella close. He was so tall that he had to bend his head down. He laid the side of his cheek against her cheek. "When the boys and I were working the farm together, we would sneak off to the far outer pasture. Dad would meet us out there and we would practice." "How did you play the music?" Alden laughed. "Dad still has his giant boom box that he had years ago. You should have seen him the first day that we practiced, strutting up to the boys with that huge boom box blasting away on his shoulder. He had his shades on, hair all spiked up. I got it on video on my cell phone," Alden stated. Stella laughed out loud. "Now that I have to see," she insisted. Ma keeps trying to get him to get rid of it, but he keeps it in his garage where she won't notice it so much. He really loves that thing, Alden said with a grin. Stella thought about the way her boys had danced during their number. I can't believe the boys were so outgoing. They weren't a bit shy. You all look so cool. And Elijah? I did not see that coming at all. Elijah took some convincing, but once we got him going, he seemed excited about it. Truth is, Elijah took over and came up with a lot of the moves. Stella got a bit choked up. Her voice turned husky. Have I told you recently that I am so happy that you are home? The extra time that you are taking with Elijah is really paying off. He smiles more and laughs more. Thank you for being their dad. Thank you for being my husband. Stella leaned in to whisper in Alden's ear, her voice still husky from emotion. Just so you know, one of those cat calls was from me. Alden couldn't help but grin. Alden took Stella's hand, sent her away with a flourish. He pulled her back towards him, twirling her around. Alden dipped Stella. He looked deeply into her eyes. Stella couldn't believe that after all these years that this man still gave her butterflies. I love you, Mrs. Westman. Just before his lips met hers, she whispered back, I love you, Mr. Westman. As they kissed, they didn't hear the cat calls or whistles. Someone yelled out, Get a room! They just kept kissing. Episode 16. Spotless? Stella sat at the table sipping her coffee. She thought about the week before, about how good the kids were. That alone had made her year. Totally bizarre from beginning to end. Everyone trickled in. Alden grabbed a cup of coffee, kissed Stella on the head, and sat down. The kids already had lunch, but they were grabbing drinks and snacks. Farm work was a whole lot of hard work. Bud No and Ernie sat close to the table, waiting for one of the kids to drop something on purpose or by accident. Everyone sat down drinking and munching. Hey kids, I have a couple of questions about Grandma Nettie and Pop's party, Stella asked. The kids looked curious. They continued to chew, waiting for their mom to continue. So, at the wedding and reception, you all did great. I want you to know how very proud of you your dad and I both were. What gives? You guys didn't fight. You didn't chew with your mouths open. I honestly cannot figure out what was happening. I mean, I was thrilled, but please explain. The children were incredibly quiet. They eyed each other. Then Ben spoke up. I heard you and Grandma Nettie talking about Kara. I forgot a bottle of water. When I got back here, I could hear what you women were talking about. Stella remembered the conversation. Yes, Nettie, Annie, and I were talking about Kara, about how she tried to break your dad and I up, right? Ben nodded. You also said that Kara makes nasty comments about us, and it bugged me. Kara's son Finn is just as nasty and as mean as she is. I got all of us kids together and we had a meeting about it. Alden and Stella looked at each other in complete surprise. AJ spoke up. We decided that we were going to be super good. I did have to give Caleb and David a look a couple of times, but even they jumped on board. We loved seeing how mad Kara was. Stella's jaw dropped. You kids did this for me? Stella asked. They all nodded. No one treats our mom that way, David exclaimed. Caleb spoke up. I gotta say, it was hard being that good. Stella looked at the kids. Huh. Well, now that I know you all can behave like that, from here on out, y'all better act like that in the store, a restaurant, everywhere. You have all set yourselves up to be little angels, Stella stated. Aw, man, the twins groaned. AJ and Ben just smiled. Stella realized that her two oldest boys really were growing up. I need all you children to gather up your laundry. It is laundry day. Let's get to washing, drying, and folding. Chop, chop, Stella commanded. The children looked at their father like they had a big secret. They eyed each other. No one moved. AJ spoke up. I already did my laundry. Well, Ben and I did, AJ told his mother. Stella stopped. She eyed both boys. What game were they playing here? Don't give me that. No stalling. Go get your clothes, Stella demanded. Ben spoke up. Ma, we really did do our laundry. AJ and I did our laundry by ourselves. All our clothes are even put away. Stella eyed the boys. She shook her head and went upstairs to check this situation out. When she made it to the landing and turned, the children pushed past her to beat her up the stairs. Stella mumbled, Yeah, sure you did your laundry. We shall see about that, Stella warned. Stella went past Franny's room. She sailed past bathroom number 1, on past the toy room. She kept going past Elijah's room and past Caleb and David's room. She went past their bathroom till she got to the end of the hall to AJ and Ben's room. They stopped at the door and opened it. AJ on one side of the door frame, Ben on the other. Both had smirks on their faces. Stella looked inside, then she went inside. She could not believe her eyes. The room was spotless. What is happening here? Am I even in the right house? Stella asked. Stella moved to the dressers and opened them. Neatly folded shirts in the right drawers. She pulled open the next drawer. Jeans, all folded nicely. Stella stood up. She pointed her finger at the bed. Aha! But what is under your bed? Stella charged across the room, sure that everything would be stuffed under the bed. Stella stooped down. She looked under the bed. Nothing. Stella stood up. She walked to the closet, opened it slowly, and threw out her arm like she was waiting for an avalanche to fall on her, clean as a whistle. Stella moved to their private bathroom. She did a double take. Whoo-wee, Stella turned around. I would even use this bathroom. Stella looked at her two oldest boys. Confusion clouded her face. I am asleep, right? Stella slapped herself in the face hard. Dang, Ma, do not do that. You have a welt on your face, AJ exclaimed. The other kids just snickered. Stella walked out of their room. She was about to pass the twins' room. They turned the knob and motioned for her to go in. Totally clean. Yes, they did need their laundry done, but it was all in the clothes basket. Stella shook her head in disbelief. Okay, what is going on here? Stella looked at her children for an explanation. David got excited. Wait, Ma, look. Our bathroom is clean too, he exclaimed. Stella looked. Yes, it was. Stella pointed her finger at her boys. She had a very skeptical look on her face. You all have alien slugs in your brains, don't you? Stella asked suspiciously. They all laughed. No, Ma, we are trying to be more responsible. We cleaned up for 2 reasons. Number 1, we did it for your anniversary, AJ explained. Stella went still. Her heart started pounding. Her eyes got huge. Stella spread her arms out, hands facing palm down, feet planted, trying to steady herself. Wait, what? What is the date today? It cannot be my anniversary. Stella grew thoughtful. She started counting on her fingers. Nettie and Celie's renewal of their vows made Stella completely forget about her own anniversary. Stella had been the matron of honor. She planned the whole thing, which made her brain go out the window. Natalie and Celie were married in the winter. They decided to put the party off till summer. They wanted to make sure everyone could attend. Holy guacamole, Stella practically started running in place, waving her arms around. Do you kids know how much crapola I gave your dad for forgetting our anniversary last year? They shook their heads yes, with identical solemn looks. Stella whispered, Maybe Dad forgot again this year? Stella had a very hopeful expression on her face. The kids shook their heads no, with identical solemn looks. Stella copied them. No? What do you mean? Stella inquired. Caleb walked up to his mother. He placed his hand on her shoulder in sympathy. It was Dad's idea to clean up, to surprise you for your anniversary, Caleb replied. Stella was floored. Stella slumped in horror. Wait, you said there were 2 reasons. What is reason number 2? Stella asked. David grinned, explaining reason number 2. Dad says if we keep our rooms clean and we start taking on some responsibility, then we can start getting an allowance. Caleb looked outraged. Hey, Ma, aren't you going to check Elijah and Francine's rooms? Caleb asked fiercely. Stella just headed back downstairs, letting out a huff of laughter. You're kidding, right? Those two have always been neat as a pin, Stella declared. The four oldest boys nodded their heads. It was true. Elijah and Francine were neat freaks. AJ whispered to his twin brothers. His voice took on a menacing tone. Maybe they have alien slugs in their brains, AJ growled. The twins glanced suspiciously at Elijah and Franny, watching them with squinty eyes. Elijah and Franny sat side by side reading together. They were not paying them any mind at all. Caleb and David nodded in agreement. They were positive. Yep, alien slugs for sure, they said in unison. Okay, so the next reading we're gonna get to go on and check out Alden and Stella's date night. That will be episode 17. And then it goes into the date, and then I'll tell you what else we're going to be reading about. Okay. Their date's long. Wow. Who knew? Okay, so then the next one, when they get back from their date, they have to meet with Elijah's teacher, Mrs. Fitz. Evidently, they have an appointment, and Alden failed to tell Stella about this very important appointment. Okay, so we'll read that as well, and we will find out what's going on with Elijah at school, and so we will check that out with my next reading. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and guys, have a great night.